Welcome to Self Help for Life. My name is Paul, and in this video I'm going to talk all about the subconscious mind. I'm going to cover 10 specific characteristics of your subconscious mind, and this video is really going to help you understand how the subconscious mind works. Now, at a very simple level, your subconscious mind is everything that you're not aware of right now. So let me give you a few examples. If you think about your left foot, now that's in your conscious mind, that's in your conscious awareness. So previously that was subconscious. If I ask you to remember your first day at school, that's now come into your conscious awareness. Previously it was subconscious. Or if I asked you what you had for dinner last night, again that's now become conscious. So your subconscious mind then consists of all your memories and everything that you're not aware of right now. Your subconscious mind also controls all your bodily functions, so things like breathing or your heart rate, and the subconscious mind is always active. So at night the conscious mind goes to sleep, but the subconscious mind is always active, which is why we have dreams in our sleep. So the first characteristic of your subconscious mind is that it's one big storage center, and it stores all your memories and life experiences, all the good ones, but also the bad ones as well. And besides storing the experiences and memories themselves, it also stores the emotions behind those experiences. And it tends to do that more for the ones that are more meaningful. So they can be meaningful in a good way or meaningful in a bad way. This is why when I asked you earlier to think about your first day at school, you could probably remember that because that's a significant emotional event. Now, your subconscious mind stores all these memories and life experiences in two ways. The first way is through an internal timeline. So your brain has a sense of where the past is and where the future is. Your brain also knows how far in the past something is. The other way that the subconscious mind stores information is by feeling. So it takes and remembers the feelings of all these life experiences. And often if you think about a certain feeling, especially an unwanted feeling, although it can work with positive feelings as well, your mind will naturally take you back to times when you experienced that feeling in the past. And this is something I use quite a lot in hypnosis, a process called hypnotic regression, where I get people to focus on a certain feeling that they want to change in some way. And that will often take them back to some kind of memory, some kind of life experience. And if we can then change the meaning of that experience and change the beliefs behind it, then that feeling can often change in the present. Now, memories in your subconscious mind can get distorted over time, and they can seem larger or smaller than they really are, which can affect the emotions that you have behind them. So let me give you a little example of this. For the first 8 years of my life, I lived in the South Island of New Zealand, and we quite often went to this place called Alexandria that had this clock on the hill. And how I remember it as a kid is this huge clock on the mountains that you could see from miles and miles away from all different parts of this area of New Zealand. And when I went back a few years ago to visit Alexandria on holiday, this clock seemed to be a lot smaller than I remembered it and not anything like as magnificent as I remembered it as a child. So the memory I have of it is very different to actually what it really was. I was actually a little bit disappointed when I went back there. So that's a good and relatively simple, non-emotional example, but you could imagine how this could happen with more significant emotional events from the past, how they could be seen to be more real in your imagination than maybe they were actually in real life. So the second characteristic of your subconscious mind is that it is a reference center for new experiences. So whenever you have a new experience, let's say you walk into a room that you've not been into before, your brain will immediately say, what do I know about this? And it will look at aspects of the room, it will look at the lighting, it will look at the furniture, might look at pictures on the wall, and it will immediately make a decision as to whether this room is okay or whether it's a threat in some way. So it's looking back at previous memories of other rooms you've been in, looking at the different furniture and making an instant decision as to whether this new experience is okay or not. Now let's say the new experience is going to have the COVID vaccination. That's quite topical at the moment. And let's say that in the past, maybe when you were a child, you had an injection or vaccination and maybe it was quite painful or it didn't quite go the way it should have gone, and that's left you with a fear. So your memory is that injection with the fear emotion attached to it. So you go to have the COVID vaccination and your brain says, well, what do I know about this? Oh yeah, that's bad, that's uncomfortable, that's going to give me a feeling of fear. So in the present, you're going to have that uncomfortable feeling. It's going to provoke this stress response. Now, the reason I mention the vaccinations example is because that's something I've struggled with in the past. I used to have a real fear of needles and vaccinations and blood tests. I don't even really know where it came from, to be honest, but I always had that fear response whenever I thought about those kind of experiences, you know, even way before actually going there. But what's happened more recently is I've just done them more often. I've needed to as I've got a little bit older, and so now most of my memories of those experiences are quite neutral. So now when I think about something like that, I don't think about it very much. I just go ahead and do it, and it's absolutely fine. So the reason for that is because two things really. I've got more neutral memories about it now, so my subconscious mind says, what do I know about this? Well, this is okay. But secondly, my beliefs have changed as well, so now I see it as something that's okay. It's not something that's such a problem as it was in the past, so my belief about it has changed. The third characteristic of your subconscious mind is that it thrives on repetition. So the more you think, feel and act consciously, the more automatic and subconscious it becomes. Now, a great example of this is learning to drive. When you first start learning to drive, it requires your entire conscious concentration, and even that can seem overwhelming. But as you begin to get more used to controlling the vehicle and understanding the road, then it becomes more automatic and unconscious, and eventually you get to a point where you can drive and have a conversation at the same time very easily. The same principle applies when you're learning a sport or a musical instrument. When you first start, it seems very difficult. You have to focus your entire concentration on maybe just being able to play a scale on the piano, for instance. But as you get that muscle memory, as you do it more often, it becomes more automatic. So this is how we learn. We couldn't do it any other way. It would be very inefficient if every time we got in a car, we had to think about the precise things that we do every time. Now, because the subconscious mind thrives on repetition, this can create a few problems, especially with thoughts and feelings. So if you're regularly experiencing anger, frustration, sadness, guilt, disappointment, or any other negative feeling, then that becomes familiar and that becomes an automatic program. So you find that more situations trigger anger or disappointment or guilt than they were before, because that's becoming a more habitual pattern. The same with thoughts. If you're regularly saying to yourself, I'm shy, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, I'm not intelligent enough, or I'm a bad person, any of those thoughts, if you keep saying those to yourself, then that's becoming a more automatic program. So the fact that the subconscious mind thrives on repetition is great when you're learning skills, but it can be a problem if you give it the wrong information. So whether it's difficult negative feelings or whether it's negative thoughts. So you've really got to watch out for this. I would say that this was probably one of the most important, if not the most important concept that I ever discovered in personal development many, many years ago. This whole idea that what you think and feel consciously is over time going to have an effect on your automatic subconscious programming. And the reason it works like this is because whatever you think, feel or act repeatedly builds stronger neural connections in your brain. And this is so important. It can't be any other way. This is how the brain learns. And this is how new habits are formed. So I'll give you a couple of examples. I never used to floss my teeth, but I have been doing that consistently now for 4 or 5 years now. It's just become a habit. It started off being something I had to consciously remember to do, but now it's a habit. Another habit I introduced a couple of years ago was making myself a green smoothie the night before, because if I did it in the morning, I found that I didn't do it. So I just got into the habit of always, before I start getting ready for bed, just making a green smoothie and putting it in the fridge, and that was ready for the next day. So that became a habit. I don't think about doing that now, it just happens. So because the subconscious mind thrives on repetition, this is why many personal development activities such as affirmations need to be done repeatedly. The more you repeat affirmations, the more you cement that new, stronger, positive belief. And eventually that becomes unconscious and guides you naturally throughout life. Or creative visualization, the more you do that, the more you repeat that, the more that really helps strengthen those neural connections in your brain. And I'll cover more on creative visualization a little bit later in this video. Now, the fourth characteristic of your subconscious mind is that real experiences and imagined experiences are treated the same way. So the subconscious mind can't differentiate between a real experience and one that is vividly imagined. It uses the same circuits for positive experiences and imagined negative experiences. If you imagined in your mind now injections and needles or spiders, or looking down from a high building if you have a fear of heights, or imagining just about to do a bungee jump, you're going to notice in your body right now some feelings and emotions as a result of that. Now, those feelings are likely to be negative, probably fear in most of those examples, and that fear won't be as intense as, say, being at the top about to do a bungee jump, but they will be quite noticeable in your body. Or think about when you're watching a movie and you become really absorbed in the movie and you take on all the feelings and emotions. Even though you know that you're sitting comfortably on the couch, you really take in all the feelings and emotions and the excitement of the movie. Now, Marissa Peer says that we only think in two specific ways. So there's the thoughts we have in our head and there's the pictures that we have in our imagination. I'd probably add to that to say that the pictures we have in our imagination also include the sounds that we imagine and the feelings that we imagine as well. So if the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a real experience and one that is vividly imagined, then this is why creative visualization is so useful. So I've covered this in other videos, so I'll link to those in the description below. But the principles are, when you're visualizing, you want to make it as real as possible in your mind first. And you want to have lots of detail and use all the senses. So let me give you an example. This would be a typical creative visualization for an Olympic runner. So they're seeing themselves running through the finish line. The first thing they notice is they're first, they've won. They'll be noticing the clock and noticing that the time there is faster than what they've done before, so they've achieved a personal best. The Olympic runner might be imagining the sound of the crowd roaring as she goes through the finish line, and might also be imagining the feelings of winning, the feelings of success as well, and perhaps the internal self-talk saying, I've won, I've done this, it's my best time. So the fifth characteristic of your subconscious mind is that it cannot process or deal with negative words. So let me give you an example. I want you to think or imagine in your mind now a red sky with purple clouds. Okay, it's a bit weird, isn't it? A red sky with purple clouds? What's Paul on about here? Okay, just get a sense of that in your mind. Now what I want you to do now is to not think about a red sky with purple clouds. Can you do it? Can you not think about those purple clouds on the red sky? It's impossible, because your subconscious mind has to think about the purple clouds and the red sky to not think about them. So your subconscious mind can't understand negative words such as not and don't. So for example, I don't want to be stressed. Your subconscious mind has to think about the word stressed, and more importantly the feeling of that word stressed, to be able to think about not being stressed. So it can't really do that. Or I'm not anxious. Again, your subconscious mind will ignore the word not and think about anxiety, anxious, and the feeling of being anxious. Other examples could be, I don't want to be a failure, or I don't want to disappoint my friend. So the solution to this is to always think about what you do want and not about not having what you don't want. So I want to be relaxed rather than I don't want to be stressed. I want to be successful rather than I don't want to fail. The sixth characteristic of your subconscious mind, and this is a very interesting and fascinating one, is that it brings up stuff to deal with. So I've already mentioned that your subconscious mind stores memories, life experiences, but also the emotions that are attached to them. Now, if that memory or life experience, if it was traumatic or a significant emotional experience, then what can happen is the emotions of that experience get trapped in your body. Now these memories then become either suppressed, that's when you remember them, when you think about that experience you remember the emotions, but you don't really want to deal with it, you don't really want to think about it, so you kind of push them back down again. Or they become repressed, which is when they're totally unconscious, out of your conscious awareness. They're still there in your body, but you don't even remember or think about that particular emotion. Now, whether these negative emotions are consciously suppressed or unconsciously repressed, Your subconscious mind wants you to deal with them. So what it will do is it will bring them up at certain times to kind of say, hello, I want you to deal with me. And this can often come up at times that don't make sense, like when you're really relaxed. So you could be on holiday and you have a panic or an anxiety attack. That's your subconscious mind saying to you, look, you need to deal with this. Now, if you don't want to deal with that negative emotion when it comes up, let's say you are on holiday relaxing on the beach, that's okay. Your unconscious mind will just bury it again, but it will bring it up again at some point in the future. However, try not to get into the habit of just burying them each time they appear, because they are coming up. Your subconscious mind is bringing up these emotions for a reason. So instead, express them, feel those feelings, feel those emotions. It's okay to feel the bad stuff, and that will allow your subconscious mind to process it and then to be able to release and let it go. Number 7 is that your subconscious mind thinks in colours. My personal way of explaining this is thinking about computer icons. So I do this quite often. Let's say I want to open Evernote. Evernote is a green icon, okay? But so is Spotify. And so sometimes I'll find myself clicking on the Spotify icon because that's also green instead of the Evernote icon. Have you ever done that on a computer? Similar with the icons on a mobile phone. So we naturally think in colours. I believe this is also the reason why different pills, real pills and placebo pills, have different colours. So pills that are designed to reduce pain tend to often be a red colour, and pills that are for promoting relaxation or reducing anxiety typically have a blue colour. And I believe this is also the reason why when you buy a new car, you tend to notice other cars that are the same colour. Now, I take advantage of this quite a bit in my hypnotherapy sessions, so I might say something like, every time you think of the colour green, you remind yourself that you're a natural non-smoker. Or every time you think of the colour blue, you remind yourself that food is fuel and I am in control of what I put into my body. I quite like these because it emphasises the fact that the subconscious mind thinks in colours, and also the fact that the colour green and the colour blue, you tend to see those quite a lot in day-to-day life. So the 8th characteristic is that the subconscious mind thinks in feelings. So besides thinking in colours, it also thinks in feelings as well. And it really picks up the feelings behind certain words. So let me just say some words just to emphasise this. So if I say the word cancer, anger, frustration, COVID-19. As I said each of those words, you probably noticed a particular feeling. Okay, cancer promotes a certain negative feeling. Anger. Everyone's experience of the word anger is different, but you'll notice a feeling in your body. Frustration. Again, people notice that in different areas of the body. And COVID-19. Again, we all have different feelings attached to that, which we experience in different ways. The same goes with positive words, by the way. So if I say love, your body will think about the feeling of love. Happiness. Again, that will have different feelings for different people, what that word means. Peace and fulfillment. Okay, so your unconscious mind, your subconscious mind doesn't so much pick up on the words, it's more the feelings behind the words, whether that feeling is positive or negative. And this is another reason why you don't want to include negative words when you're talking about what you want. So for example, I don't want to get cancer. Much better would be, I want to be fit, healthy and well. Or I'm not angry. Instead of that, I am naturally calm and relaxed and can control my emotions. Something like that. So number 9 is that your subconscious mind filters out any irrelevant and unnecessary information. So every second of the day, millions of bits of information are coming into our brain and our subconscious mind. This is information from the external world, information from our bodies, so sensations in our body, and also the thoughts in our mind, our 60,000 thoughts that we have each day. And consciously, our conscious mind can only deal with about 7 bits of information. It's actually 7 plus or minus 2. So sometimes it's only 5, sometimes it's up to about 9. So your subconscious mind filters everything else out except for the 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information. And it does this in 3 ways. First way is by deleting things. So it simply just doesn't bring things into conscious awareness. It does it by distorting things. So it changes the meaning of them in some way. And it does it by generalizing. So looking at something that's new and relating it to something that we know about. And the subconscious mind does this so that we can focus on what is meaningful and important to us at the time, but also so it can bring in any information that might be a threat in some way. So if something happens, it's going to bring that to immediate conscious awareness so we can act, sometimes subconsciously, before we even realize what that is. So the subconscious mind will filter that information based on what is important and meaningful to us. And this is often based on our beliefs and our values. So the 10th and final characteristic of your subconscious mind is that it's there to protect you. So if any of the million bits of information that comes through every second is a threat, then it will immediately alert your amygdala. This is your emotional brain. This is an instantaneous process, and it will do that before the information even gets to your conscious analytical brain. And that's really important. If you hear something like a sudden noise, you immediately jump before you're even consciously aware of what that noise is. This is also the reason why another person might jump if you surprise or startle them and they weren't expecting you to be there. So your subconscious mind, and especially the amygdala, gives you the ability to be able to fight or run away without any conscious thought if necessary. Now, the subconscious mind can sometimes get the wrong end of the stick as to what it needs to do to protect you, and this can cause addictions and other unwanted behaviors, but that's probably out of the scope of today's video, but I will cover that another time. So these were my 10 characteristics of your subconscious mind. Hopefully from this video you now understand more about how the subconscious mind works and how it differs from the conscious mind. So if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and do leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. If you have a question, leave that below as well and I'll do my best to answer it. If you haven't yet subscribed to the Self Help for Life YouTube channel, then please do, and do click the notification bell as well. That way you will always be notified when I release future videos. Do check out my website, that's selfhelpforlife.com. On there you will find the written versions to many of these videos, and also a link to my podcast and also my social media channels as well. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.